January 4th, 2020. New Year's Eve, midnight. A man gets down on one knee in front of friends and family. The proposal is broadcast on Facebook Live for the world to see. She says, "Yes." Everyone cheers. Her mother cries tears of joy. 72 hours later, that same man shoots her in the chest. "Go ahead, shoot me, shoot me." Those were Dominic Jefferson's last words before her fiancé Kendrick Akins pulled the trigger. And when a good Samaritan tried to save her, Akins shot at him too. This is the story of a woman who thought she'd found love. A man with a ***, 20-year history of abusing women, ***, and an engagement that lasted exactly, ***3 days, ***, before turning into murder. Disclaimer: this story contains descriptions of domestic violence and murder. We tell Dominic's story to honor her memory and show why rushing into relationships with red flags everywhere can be deadly. Before she became a headline, before her engagement went viral, before her fiancé murdered her, Dominic Jefferson was a 33-year-old woman building a life in Houston, Texas. Dominic wasn't flashy. She wasn't chasing fame. She was a regular woman working, raising her family, and trying to find happiness in a city that can be both vibrant and dangerous. Houston, Texas, the fourth largest city in America. A sprawling metropolis of over 2 million people, where towering skyscrapers meet sprawling suburbs, where opportunity and danger exist side by side. It's a city where dreams are chased and sometimes, tragically, where lives are cut short. Dominic lived in northwest Harris County, in an apartment complex on Hollyview Drive. It wasn't fancy, but it was home. She had 3 children, kids who depended on her, who loved her, who needed their mother. Her family described Dominic as someone who always tried to see the best in people. She was trusting, perhaps too trusting. She believed in love, in second chances, in the possibility that people could change. "Nobody deserves to die like that," her sister Charmone Onyeje would later say. "I'm not going to let her die in vain, but I am going to celebrate her life as we know it." Dominic's mother would describe her daughter as someone who loved deeply, who wanted to be loved in return, who was always searching for that one person who would truly see her and cherish her. In late 2019, sometime around October or November, Dominic met a man named Kendrick Marquette Akins. He was 39 years old, 6 years older than Dominic. He lived nearby. They started dating. The relationship moved fast, incredibly fast. They'd known each other for only ***3 months, when Kendrick decided it was time to take the next step. UT Kwan, one of Dominic's friends who witnessed what would happen next, admitted, "I thought it was fast. I said, if they're happy, I'm happy. 3 months, 90 days. That's how long Dominic and Kendrick had been dating before he proposed marriage. Most relationship experts recommend dating for at least a year before getting engaged. They say you need time to see someone in different situations during stress, during joy, during conflict. You need to meet their family, understand their history, see who they really are when the honeymoon phase ends. Dominic and Kendrick didn't have that time. But when you're lonely, when you're looking for love, when someone seems charming and attentive, 3 months can feel like enough. It wasn't. December 31st, 2019, New Year's Eve. The final night of a decade, the threshold of a new beginning. Across America, millions of people were preparing to celebrate parties, champagne, countdowns, resolutions for a better year ahead. For Dominic Jefferson, this New Year's Eve would be special. Her boyfriend Kendrick had something planned, something big. Just before midnight, Kendrick Akins got down on one knee and proposed to Dominic Jefferson. Friends and family surrounded them. The moment was joyful, exciting, filled with the promise of forever. And it was all being recorded on Facebook Live. Dominic's sister was broadcasting the engagement via Facebook Live, sharing this intimate moment with the world. Hundreds, maybe thousands of people watched in real time as Kendrick asked Dominic to be his wife. She said yes. Everyone cheered. People hugged. Cameras flashed. Dominic's mother, Tina Hunter, watched the live stream from wherever she was, tears streaming down her face. "I thought she had finally found the man of her dreams," Tina would later say. The man of her dreams. That's what every mother hopes for their daughter, someone who will love her, protect her, build a life with her, someone who will make her happy. Kendrick seemed like that man. He'd just proposed in front of everyone. He'd made a public declaration of his love. He'd committed to spending his life with Dominic. What Dominic didn't know, what her mother didn't know, was that Kendrick Marquette Akins had a history, a violent history, a history of hurting women that stretched back 20 years. Akins had been previously convicted of aggravated assault of a family member in 2008 and had prior felony convictions for possession of a weapon as a felon and possession of a controlled substance. He'd served time. He'd been in and out of the system. And at the time of the proposal, at the moment he got down on one knee and promised Dominic forever, Kendrick Akins was on parole. He was supposed to be under supervision, supposed to be monitored, supposed to be staying out of trouble. But nobody told Dominic. Or if they did, she believed he'd changed. She believed this engagement meant a fresh start. As midnight struck and 2020 began, Dominic Jefferson was engaged, hopeful, and planning a future with a man who would be dead before the first week of January ended. Wait, not dead. She would be dead, and he would be her murderer. January 1st, 2020, the first day of their engagement. Dominic probably spent it glowing, showing off her ring, telling people about the proposal, planning what comes next. Friends and family congratulated her. Social media was filled with well wishes. January 2nd, 2020, the second day. Maybe reality started to set in. The excitement fades slightly. Life returns to normal bills, work, kids, responsibilities. And with Kendrick, that meant his jealousy, his control, his temper. According to a witness, the couple had an argument on January 2nd, where Dominic grabbed Akins' cell phone and threw it against a hard surface, breaking the phone. Think about that. They'd been engaged for 2 days, and already they were fighting so intensely that Dominic was smashing his phone. What caused that argument? Prosecutors said it was about a message Kendrick had received on social media. A message from another woman, perhaps, something that made Dominic realize this engagement was a mistake. Investigators said after that argument, Dominic called the engagement off. She'd said yes 3 days ago. Now she was saying no, this was wrong, I can't do this. But calling off an engagement with Kendrick Akins wasn't like breaking up with a normal person. Kendrick didn't accept rejection. He didn't do breakups. And he especially didn't handle being publicly embarrassed, remember. The whole world had watched him propose on Facebook Live. January 3rd, 2020. The third day, the final day. Friday night, January 3rd, 2020. The evening started with Dominic at Kendrick's apartment complex on the 5,500 block of Hollyview Drive in Northwest Houston. Dominic wasn't alone. She was with a female friend, and they were planning to pick up the friend's boyfriend from work. It was supposed to be a simple errand. Drive over, pick him up, come back. But when they got to Dominic's car in the parking lot, it wouldn't start. Dead battery. Every driver's nightmare, but usually just a minor inconvenience. Jump it, or call roadside assistance, and you're back on your way within an hour. Kendrick heard about the car trouble and came outside, asking what the problem was. Maybe he wanted to help. Maybe he wanted to assert control. Maybe he just wanted an excuse to interact with Dominic even though they'd broken up. But Dominic didn't want his help. She reportedly yelled, "Don't touch my car," making it clear she didn't want Kendrick anywhere near her vehicle or her life anymore. An argument erupted in the parking lot. The witness said Kendrick watched while she attempted to fix the car's battery to get it to start, and the arguing continued between Dominic and Kendrick. Voices raised, tempers flared. Dominic's friend was there, trying to fix the car, trying to get them out of this situation. Other residents of the apartment complex could hear the commotion, but probably didn't think much of it. Couples argue all the time, especially at night. But this argument was different. This argument was about to turn deadly. At some point during the confrontation, Kendrick grabbed a handgun from his front right pocket. He had a gun, on him, in his pocket, ready to use. Remember, Kendrick Akins had prior felony convictions for possession of a weapon as a felon. He wasn't legally allowed to have a gun, but there it was, in his hand, pointed at the woman who'd just called off their engagement. The witness said that when Kendrick pulled the gun, she backed away. Smart move. She recognized danger and got out of the line of fire. Dominic saw the gun too. She knew what it meant. She knew Kendrick's history, his temper, his violence, and in that moment, she made a choice that haunts everyone who heard about this case. She called his bluff. The witness heard Dominic say, "Go ahead, shoot me, shoot me. Go ahead, shoot me." Maybe she didn't think he'd actually do it. Maybe she was so done with his threats and his control that she'd rather die than live in fear anymore. Maybe she was just exhausted from 3 days of engagement drama, exhausted from his jealousy, exhausted from trying to please someone who couldn't be pleased. Or maybe she thought calling his bluff would make him put the gun down, would make him realize how insane this was, would shock him back to reality. It didn't. Kendrick Akins pointed the pistol at Dominic's chest and fired once. Bang! The sound echoed through the parking lot. Dominic's friend screamed. Dominic fell to the ground, a bullet in her chest, blood spreading across her clothes. It was approximately midnight on Saturday, January 4th, 2020, technically the 4th day after the proposal, but close enough to make it 3 full days from engagement to murder. Dominic Jefferson lay dying in the parking lot while Kendrick Akins stood over her with a smoking gun. In a nearby apartment complex, a man heard the arguing and the gunshot. This Good Samaritan ran from his unit and hopped a fence to check on the victim. Think about that for a moment. This man, whose name has never been publicly released for his own safety, heard trouble and ran toward it. He didn't hide. He didn't call 911 and wait. He physically jumped a fence and ran to help a stranger. After asking the witness what had happened, she told him that Akins had shot Dominic. The Good Samaritan now knew there was a shooter on scene, someone armed and dangerous. Most people would run at that point. Call police. Get to safety. But he stayed. He was trying to help Dominic, trying to assess her injuries, trying to do something, anything, to save this woman's life. And then Kendrick Akins reappeared. The witness told police that suddenly Akins came back and screamed at the Good Samaritan. "What did you just say? What did you say?" before he shot at him at least once. Kendrick fired at the man trying to save Dominic's life. This wasn't self-defense. This wasn't protection. This was a man trying to eliminate witnesses, trying to make sure no one could tell the police what really happened. Bang! The Good Samaritan made a split-second decision that saved his life. He dove into some bushes and pretended to have been shot and was dead, in hopes that Akins would go away. He lay there in the bushes, perfectly still, not breathing, playing dead while Kendrick stood feet away with a gun, while Dominic lay bleeding in the parking lot, while precious seconds ticked by. It worked. Kendrick, believing he'd shot the witness, fled the scene. He took Dominic's cell phone and ran, probably to prevent anyone from tracking him or accessing evidence on her phone. The Good Samaritan waited, made sure Kendrick was really gone, then finally emerged from the bushes and called 911. By the time police arrived at the Hollyview apartments around midnight, Dominic Jefferson was already dead. The 3-year-old woman was found dead in the parking lot, a single gunshot wound to the chest, her car door still open, her friend traumatized beyond words. Kendrick Akins was gone. A manhunt began immediately. Houston Police Sergeant Cullen Duncan addressed the media. "We're concerned with the fact that he's not here on scene and was, based on some statements, that he was at the scene earlier." Police had a name, Kendrick Marquette Akins, 39 years old. They had witnesses. They had security footage. They had the Good Samaritan who'd watched Kendrick shoot Dominic and then shoot at him. They put out a public call. Kendrick Akins is wanted for questioning in the murder of his fiancée. If you see him, do not approach. He is armed and dangerous. Call 911. Dominic's family appeared on local news, devastated and confused. Her sister told reporters, "He just proposed to her in front of the whole world. I want to know why. Why would you do this? You say you loved her." The sister's anguish was palpable. She'd been the one broadcasting the proposal on Facebook Live just 3 days earlier. She'd shared that moment of joy with the world. Now she was sharing her grief. Why? Why? Why would you do this? You proposed to her on New Year's Eve and now today you kill her? Why? She asked reporters, her voice breaking. But Kendrick Akins wasn't running. He wasn't hiding in Mexico or fleeing to another state. Officials said Akins arrived at a Houston police station around 12 p.m. on Saturday for questioning about 12 hours after the murder. He turned himself in. Kendrick Marquette Akins walked into a police station on Saturday morning, ready to face what he'd done. Why turn himself in? Maybe he realized running was pointless. Maybe his conscience got to him. Maybe he wanted to control the narrative, to tell his side of the story before witnesses told theirs. Or maybe, and this is most likely, he knew his parole would be violated anyway, and he'd rather surrender than be hunted. After being questioned by detectives, Kendrick Akins was charged with murder Saturday evening. He was also charged with aggravated assault with a deadly weapon for shooting at the Good Samaritan. His bond was initially set at $150,000 for the murder charge and $75,000 for the aggravated assault charge. Later, A judge increased his bond on the murder charge from $150,000 to $250,000. But here's something chilling. Kendrick asked a magistrate to be placed in protective custody because he feared retaliation from Dominic's family members, some of whom were in the jail. He murdered a woman in cold blood, shot at a Good Samaritan, and now he wanted protection because he was scared? Dominic's mother responded, "He doesn't deserve protected custody. He doesn't deserve to live." That's how I feel about it, with no filter. Kendrick Akins sat in Harris County Jail awaiting trial. The evidence against him was overwhelming. Multiple witnesses, the Good Samaritan's testimony, forensic evidence from the scene, his own history of violence against women. The trial began in October 2022, nearly 3 years after Dominic's murder. On October 21, 2022, Kendrick Akins, now 42 years old, was convicted of murder. But something dramatic happened when the verdict was read. When the guilty verdict was announced, Kendrick Akins passed out and had a seizure in the courtroom. Was it real? Was it staged? Was his body genuinely reacting to the reality of spending life in prison? Or was this a performance meant to garner sympathy? The judge postponed the punishment phase of the trial until the following week, due to the medical incident. During the sentencing phase, prosecutors painted a damning picture of Kendrick Akins. Assistant District Attorney Anthony Osso told the court, "We were able to establish a trail of violent crimes going back almost 20 years in which Kendrick Akins was violent and abusive toward women. 20 years, 2 decades of hurting women. Dominic wasn't his first victim, she was just the one he killed." The jury found that Akins was a true habitual offender because of his earlier violent crimes. This classification meant harsher sentencing was possible. Harris County District Attorney Kim Ogg made a statement that captured the essence of who Kendrick Akins really was. This man was an abuser with a string of domestic violence crimes that continued to escalate until he killed a woman. Unfortunately, Dominic Jefferson lost her life because he lost his temper. On November 10, 2022, Kendrick Akins was sentenced to life in prison. Not 20 years, not 30, life. Prosecutor Anthony Osso addressed Dominic's family. "I hope that the family feels justice was done because Dominic Jefferson was a daughter, sister, and mother, as well as a cousin and friend. We want to thank the jury for putting an end to that." Putting an end to what? To Kendrick Akins' 20-year reign of terror against women, to his pattern of abuse, control, and violence, to his ability to hurt anyone else ever again. Throughout the trial, Dominic's family sat in that courtroom, reliving the worst moment of their lives. They heard testimony about the argument, the gunshot, Dominic's final words, her body lying in the parking lot while her killer fled. Dominic's mother, Tina Hunter, had watched the Facebook Live proposal just 3 days before her daughter's murder. "I thought she had finally found the man of her dreams," she said. It was the nightmare of her life. The nightmare of her life. An engagement that should have been the beginning of happily ever after turned into 3 days of escalating violence that ended in murder. Dominic's sister demanded answers. "We need answers. Why did it come to this? How did it come to this? She has kids. 3 kids." Dominic Jefferson left behind 3 children who would grow up without their mother. Kids who would have to be told that the man who proposed to Mommy on New Year's Eve is the same man who killed her 3 days later. Sister Charmone Onyeje vowed, "I'm not going to let her die in vain, but I am going to celebrate her life as we know it." Celebrate her life. Not just mourn her death, but remember who Dominic was. A mother, a sister, a daughter, a woman who believed in love and deserved so much better than what she got. Let's talk about what should have been obvious from the beginning. Red flag has shown. The relationship moved too fast. 3 months from meeting to engagement is not normal. It's a warning sign of someone trying to lock you down before you discover who they really are. Red flag #2. He had a violent criminal history. Kendrick Akins had been convicted of aggravated assault of a family member in 2008, had prior felony convictions for weapon possession as a felon, and was on parole at the time he proposed. 20 years of documented violence against women. Red flag #3. The broken phone incident. 2 days into the engagement, they were fighting so intensely that Dominic smashed his phone. That level of conflict that early? Run. Red flag #4. He couldn't handle her saying no. When Dominic tried to call off the engagement after 3 days, Kendrick's response was murder. That's not heartbreak, that's control. Dominic's friend UT Kwan admitted thinking the engagement was fast, but said, If they're happy, I'm happy. But that's the trap. We don't want to be judgmental. We don't want to rain on someone's parade. So we stay quiet even when we see red flags everywhere. Don't stay quiet. If you see someone you love rushing into a relationship with someone who has a violent history, say something. It might save their life. Dominic Jefferson was 33 years old when her fiancé shot her in the chest 3 days after proposing. She said yes on New Year's Eve, with the whole world watching on Facebook Live. She said, "Go ahead, shoot me on January 4th, believing he wouldn't actually pull the trigger." She was wrong. Kendrick Akins is now serving life in prison, where he'll never threaten, control, or murder another woman again. The Good Samaritan who tried to save Dominic and had to play dead in the bushes is alive because of his quick thinking. And Dominic's 3 children are growing up without their mother because a man couldn't handle rejection. If someone rushes the relationship, has a history of violence, can't accept no, makes you afraid, leave immediately. Resources: National Domestic Violence Hotline, 1-800-799-7233. Text START to 88788. 3 days. That's all it took for a fairy tale proposal to turn into murder. Don't ignore the red flags. Don't think love will change someone with a 20-year history of violence. And if someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. Rest in peace, Dominic Jefferson, mother, daughter, sister. A woman who deserved the love story she was promised, not the nightmare she got. Fade to black.